Hello, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit more about the illustrations and my process for creating the illustrations for two of my three books, Chasing Apollo and the new one being released on May 22nd, Coffee and Papercuts. So the image that you're seeing in front of you is one of several that are in the new book, Coffee and Papercuts, and they're to go with a poem called Lost, which I quoted in an earlier post this week. I'll be telling you more about the poem Lost later on in the week as part of the whole kind of getting us all ready to party and celebrate my new collection, Coffee and Papercuts. So on the screen, you can see the central picture is the original photograph that I actually took in Ireland in 2002. I went down I went to visit Ireland because I didn't know I was going to be coming back, and I tried to get around as much of the UK and as much of the surrounding areas and countries next to the UK as I could. And so I can't remember exactly which park I took this in. It may have been Killarney, but it was definitely one of my favorite photos from that trip. Now, when I created the image, the original, like my first run at the image was the dark blue one that you see with that looks like it's almost out of a fairy tale story. And I really loved it. I loved the artistry of it, the whorls, how it looked almost like a painting. I use a program called Deep Art Effects, which takes a photograph and shifts it into different artistic styles. The one with the dark blue was more eminent of the feeling from the poem of called Lost, which is based on a Gothic theme, a Gothic idea of being lost in the woods. However, when I came close to submitting my work and deciding on which illustrations for which photographs I wanted to do, I thought about using the same artistic style for all of the illustrations in the volume. The reason why I was thinking about it and considering this other idea is because for Chasing Apollo, I used all of the same artistic style on all of the photographs to make sure that the paintings that were the illustrations for the poetry was exactly the same. It looked classic. It looked ancient. It took the photograph and gave it a kind of not like a antique painting look, and they were consistent all the way through. And I thought, well, what if I wanted to do that with Coffee and Papercuts? So the image that you see on the right is actually a reformed version that was based on the cover art, because I had already decided on the photograph I was going to use for the cover, and the cover art being in keeping with the concept of Coffee and Papercuts was a cafe, and the stained glass artistic style was to emanate the paper cut aspect. And so I took all the photographs I'd intended to use for the illustrations and I turned them all into stained glass, but it didn't quite work for all of the photographs. Each of them I had already done in a style like the dark blue one, but in the style that was appropriate to the theme of the poem, the idea of the poem, just like this one is appropriate for Lost. But when I reformed it and I tried to do the stained glass for all of them, it didn't work for all of them. And I thought, well, if I can't do it for all of them, there's no point in doing it for every one if it doesn't work. Now, some of the illustrations that are in Coffee and Papercuts are the stained glass versions because it worked better for that particular poem than perhaps the original one. One I will be talking to you about later is for a poem called 100 Hands, which, while I liked the original, which was more like the painting of Lost that you see, it was easier to see the illustration in the stained glass form. So it's not that I would choose one that I liked better than the other. It was which one was both appropriate for the concept and theme of the poem, and I liked the look of in terms of an illustration. So all these kind of things I know that artists deal with, which medium to use, which colors to use, what palette, and all of those things, but I'm not an artist. I can take a good photograph. I have no training or skill or special cameras or anything like that. I can usually frame a good photograph, but in terms of creating the artwork, I cannot draw a straight line to save my life. So when I started using this AI program, Deep Art Effects, to create paintings from my photographs, it was blissful. It was fabulous because I really enjoyed including the imagery and settings that inspired my poems. So I hope that you enjoy the choice I made, and getting to share the alternate version with you also is really nice for me, because the stained glass version of this poem was great and I did like it, but it didn't quite go with the Gothic feel of the poem that I was trying for. I do, however, have a little bit more information for you about that competition that I introduced last week. There is a competition for a free copy of my new book, Coffee and Papercuts. The rules for the competition are, write a poem inspired by the illustrations I've been sharing on my feeds. Okay, any of the illustrations, any of the quotes, anything I've been sharing with you in preparation for the book launch, I'd love for you to use to create a poem of your own. So 20 lines or fewer. Send your effort, your entry, to Leah-The-Dreamer at outlook.com in order to enter the competition for the free copy of the book. Please try and get it to me by midnight on May 20th so that I can choose which poem will receive the free copy of the book. The winner will be announced at the book launch and given the free copy, and you may even be asked to read your winning poem to the rest of us so that we can all enjoy the sharing of poets, inspiring poetry, inspiring art, and all of that inspiration that goes around. In addition to this particular competition, I'm going to be raffling off some first print signed posters of my illustrations. One of which is the one you see before you, the poster print, the first poster print of Lost, okay, will be available as a raffle on the day of the book launch. Registering in advance with your free ticket for the book launch will enter you once for the poster raffle. Additional raffle tickets will be available at the book launch to purchase for the poster giveaway. So I hope you've enjoyed some of this explanation of Coffee and Papercuts illustrations and the illustrations I've made for previous versions, and how I go about that kind of decision, that kind of choice. I think it's really important that we share the process that we have with each other, because, you know, every little bit helps, and somebody who, like me, can't draw a straight line might enjoy being able to share their ideas anyway.